Hi, welcome to all the speakers and everyone watching Nari Talks first webinar of 2021. Our next speaker, Nisha Narayanji, completed her law and LLM in business laws from Nagpur University. She practiced in Maharashtra and Kerala, mostly on the criminal side. Since 2003, she's been practicing in district courts, high court, as a litigation lawyer in civil, criminal, family courts, consumer courts, and recovery tribunals. Welcome, Nishaji.
Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you.
Another law which is of paramount importance to women equality and ensuring a justice life for women in India is the Domestic Violence Act of 2005. The objective of this law is the protection of women from domestic violence and provide and recognize the rights of women to secure housing and reside in a matrimonial house or a shared household, whether or not she is entitled or has a right in the shared household. So I would invite Nisha ji to talk about this law and give her perspectives on what is actually a shared household in this particular act and what are the rights accorded to a woman under the Domestic Violence Act of 2005.
We had the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, which came in, though very late to say, that is in 2005. Rather, in somewhere in 1987, in one of Justice Sabyasachi's judgment, he had said that there is a need for a right for protection of right to home for a woman. Despite that, it took us another 2 decades to come out with a law which was very necessary, and a law which has brought a sea of change in the right of women who are affected by domestic violence. And this might be a gray area which was never addressed before. All that the remedy, it is a nature in the nature of an immediate remedy. So previously, any emergency relief that a woman who was a victim of domestic violence that she could assert to was a 498A complaint under the IPC or a civil remedy. So what this entire scheme of the act, it is to provide immediate relief to victims of violence and of domestic violence of any kind. So this was one of a kind because here we are addressing all kinds of domestic violence, may it be physical abuse, may it be sexual abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, economic abuse, right to child, shared household. So here was an act which has brought all these issues under one umbrella. And here was also a procedure for the first time under a civil remedy, and ex parte orders can be passed. The had the power to pass ex parte orders. So basically all civil remedies are provided for, and if there is a breach of violation of these remedies, then the aspect of criminality would come into picture in these laws. Now, we are especially dealing here with only shared household because this is a very gray area till recently, and I would say in this pandemic times, like Twilight, we have some very good judgments coming from Supreme Court under this testing times. We have, as Shanta ma'am had on inheritance, we have said, and on shared household also. So what basically shared household, we'll just give it in a nutshell because I think does not need much of an explanation, but just to start with. So shared household as is given in the act itself. So where the person agreed, the victim of domestic violence, she has lived in a domestic relationship with the person. So the main two characters for a shared household are living in a house, and it should be domestic relationship. So I need to emphasize here, I don't know, but many have this misnomer that DV Act only pertains to victims of matrimonial abuse. It could be, DV Act is applicable even to a mother, even to a sister who is living with her brother, because the term used is domestic relationship. It is not saying that you're only with your husband. So if we go by that, so it is applicable. Even a mother can approach under DV Act. I haven't seen many cases. I have done so recently, but I have not come across a single instance where somebody has come, a sister or a mother has approached under domestic violence abuse. There may have been in other places, but at least in Delhi, to my knowledge, I have not seen. So shared household is where the person aggrieved has stayed in a domestic relationship, whether singly or jointly, whether she has any right, title or interest in that property, or in a household. Now this is the important part, which was a matter of little controversy. In a household which may belong to joint family, of which the husband is a member, respondent is a member, whether or not he has any right title. So this is how it went. What such a broad and inclusive definition of shared household was mainly because of the tradition and customs of family pattern in India. That is, after marriage also, the son and his wife, they would continue to live with the parents. Where even the house may belong to parents, but the tradition here was, and that is why exactly the shared household term had such, it was given such an inclusive meaning. Now, what happened is in 2007, with the S.R. Batra versus Tarun Batra judgment came, two judges bench. So they gave a very restricted meaning to this term, shared household, wherein they said that the claim is only on a house which belongs to the husband or is taken on rent by him, or it belongs to a joint family of which he is a member. So what happened was, if the house was in the name of the father-in-law or the mother-in-law, so now what, to circumvent this provision of law which was applicable, what transpired was the husband would move out of the house and the father-in-law or mother-in-law would put a case and for eviction of the daughter-in-law. So what was happening here was, by way of this judgment, the daughter-in-law was again back to square one position, which started before 2005. So now we in 2020, and this again in 2020 only, we got the judgment of Satish Chandra Ahuja, which overruled S.R. Batra versus Tarun Batra. And the main reason for overruling was stating that interpretation of shared household, such a narrow interpretation of shared household, would clearly frustrate the object and purpose of the DV Act itself, that of providing a right to reside or a roof over her head. So after the Satish Chandra Ahuja's judgment, the only one more gray area so far as shared household was concerned was with relation to the Senior Citizens Act 2007, which is again a special act, which is later in time as concerned to DV Act. So being a special act which also had a non-obstant clause, which said that it would be, it will prevail over any other acts. So now again we had a gray area again where we were having the same issues, but because now father-in-law, daughter-in-law or the mother-in-law can again bring a case against the son and daughter-in-law to get them evicted. So in the past 2 years, again the high courts of Punjab and Haryana and Delhi got risen to the occasion. They have said that these two acts have to be harmoniously constructed. It cannot be that when you are giving relief to one party, it cannot act as a deterrent to a party who has a similar relief available under similar special act. So now even Supreme Court has endorsed this, and Supreme Court in its again recent judgment, which has again come in 2020 only, this is actually that it would be wherein it's the nature of a direction which has been given, because the Senior Citizens Act being later in time, so the tribunal has been asked to see to it that they are both harmoniously constructed. So as to see that while you are giving remedies as envisaged in the Senior Citizens Act, it does not result in obviating competent remedies which are available under the other special acts, which obviously is the Domestic Violence Act. So in nutshell, so far as shared household is concerned and right to reside in a shared household is concerned, that part is secured when these two acts have been, even the Senior Citizens Act has been taken care of, to that they both should work harmoniously in a constructive manner.
Absolutely. No, I think that's extremely important, because this contradictory, laws, Senior Citizens Act and the DV Act were definitely in contradiction, and it was important for us to work out a harmonious relationship between the two acts. So thank you for covering that aspect as well. So even after having such laws protecting women's rights in terms of domestic violence and constant support of the Indian judiciary and Indian constitution, the ground reality is different and provides a more regressive picture for the women equality and justice in India. Next question is related to the DV Act, and this is for Nisha ji. Nisha ji, this question talks about the ongoing pandemic and the DV Act that you talked about, the Domestic Violence Act. I want to understand, so that act is, the objective of the act is to protect the interests of women, protect them from any sort of violence. Do you think that act is adequate enough to protect women during crisis situations such as this ongoing pandemic?
Yes, definitely, because as I said, the very inception of DV Act is for providing immediate relief. It's in the nature of emergency reliefs only. So, so far as DV Act is concerned, even during pandemic, what I have experienced is during pandemic times also. But of course, this would be limited to my experience only, because I have been working here in Delhi courts. So And access to courts during pandemic was never an issue here. The courts, they work very efficiently. The Delhi High Court, the district courts, they all have worked very efficiently, and it has not been difficult to access. But having said so, we have been seeing in reports, in newspapers, everywhere that during pandemic times, the domestic violence incidences have been on a rise, on a rapid rise rather. So couples would see each other only few hours a day when they are 24/7 locked in the same house. So some crackers are bound to be there, and but by and far, those who have chosen to exercise this option, I would say that yes, they have been able to do that, and very successfully. The courts have dealt it very efficiently at a very because this reliefs, as I said, they are in the nature of an urgent relief. So if there is somebody who's trying to dispossess, so immediately we have under DV Act itself, as I mentioned earlier, that the courts have are empowered to pass ex parte reliefs also under DV Act. So there is an urgent relief provided for abuses of any kind under DV Act. When the right of residence is given, the court is equally empowered to direct the husband to leave the house, share household. If it is seen that he is abusing his family, the court can direct that the husband be directed to remove himself from the shared household. To that extent, this law empowers takes care of the rights of the woman so far as her right to residence is concerned, which is very important.
Okay. Thank you, Nisha ji.